We have some breaking news here today. Just as we predicted, a federal court in downtown Los Angeles has shut down the Trump administration's illegal and unlawful deportation machine, ruling that their wide-scale ICE raids in Southern California violate the Constitution. That's right. In a 52-page ruling, Judge Frimpong of the Central District has ruled in favor of the plaintiffs who went after high-ranking Trump officials in the Trump administration, granting a temporary restraining order and stopping them from conducting these illegal searches and seizures, which violate the Constitution. This is something we covered before on civil action here on the Legal AF Network. I'm Shant, Karnikian, joined by Brian Kabateck. Brian, where should we start from today?
Well, let's start from where we were a little while ago. First of all, just let me point out that we are based in Los Angeles. So this is in our backyard. This is happening. We're watching this every single day. We know people involved in this. And it is, although we have a national practice, this is something that is frankly unbelievable and wouldn't have predicted a year ago. So what we've been talking about for a while here is that these stops in Los Angeles, whether it's Dodger Stadium, whether it's MacArthur Park, whether it's on the streets, are patently illegal on their face. And they're illegal on their face. And what we've said is you're depriving people, you're simply stopping people, which you can't do in America. And just to be clear, the Constitution applies to U.S. citizens, to people here who are legal residents, to people who come here and visit and are on a visa or a holiday. And it applies to undocumented people as well. The Constitution doesn't pick and choose. That's not the way it works. So what we've been consistently saying is you can't stop someone on the street simply because the color of their skin. You can't stop them because they don't speak English with ease. And these are exactly the kind of enumerated factors that have obviously and clearly come out in this case. So, Shant, explain what this case is, because we've covered this case before, but explain what the case is, and then we can go on and talk about exactly what happened.
Yeah, this was a bombshell lawsuit, a class action that was brought by a group of people that were unlawfully detained or arrested or locked up or rounded up in these crazy raids, some of whom are even American citizens, U.S. passport holders, United States citizens from this country, citizens of our nation. And they brought a class action. They brought it through a number of big, powerful organizations like the ACLU, Public Counsel, and it was filed in the Central District of California. The case is Perdomo versus Noem. That's Kristi Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security.
She gets sued a lot these days, doesn't she, Shant?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of litigation flying back and forth, but you know what? That's what happens when you break the law. I mean, this is how the law is enforced. I think from day one, when we started doing these programs, we were talking about how the law is what kind of keeps everything in check. It's the last safeguard against violations of the law. So you need.
Well, I want to get more into this case in a second, but I have to say that these people and their conduct is so illegal. One has to wonder if at the end of the Trump term, we're not going to start seeing indictments coming down for their wholesale violation of the law and disregarding legal precedent.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly right. And that's what this case was about. Disregarding legal precedent, disregarding the Constitution, the founding document that is the basis of our democracy here. It alleged violations of the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, equal protection, discriminatory intent. I mean, it has everything in there. And top to bottom, the court agreed with the plaintiffs here, with the people suing the Trump administration, because these actions violated, and we can get into some of the specifics. I mean,
let's get into some of the facts. So 4 men on a bus stop in Pasadena, which happens to be my neck of the woods, and they're sitting there waiting for the metro, the bus in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden 4 vehicles show up, black vehicles show up, men jump out in vests and armed, pointing guns at them, demanding to see their identification, and haul them away and throw them in a basement in downtown Los Angeles. We'll talk about that basement facility a little bit later. We have people at a car wash who are U.S. citizens who are thrown up against a fence, and the agent demands to know where the man was born and what hospital he was born in. He said, I don't know what hospital. I was born in East LA. They take him away, try to verify that he's a U.S. citizen. I mean, people being dragged out of businesses and operations, car washes, particularly Home Depots. This is just rampant. And if you're not in Los Angeles, you don't understand and can't comprehend the fear that this is causing to the 40 to 46% of the population that identifies as Latino.
Yeah, I think, and that's right. I think, Brian, I think you, me, everyone else in our office, I mean, we personally know people impacted by this, whether they've been directly detained or they fear being detained because of the color of their skin or because of the way that they speak. They have family members. I mean, this is a city comprised of immigrants. It truly is a melting pot, and it's a critical, that melting pot nature of the city is a critical component of the city. The food, the work that's done in this city. I mean, it's an integral part of our culture here in Los Angeles, and it's directly affecting so many people. I mean, MacArthur Park, where that illegal raid happened, where Mayor Bass spoke out about it, that's down the street from our office. That's somewhere I drive through every day on the way into the office. This isn't isolated in some small neighborhood and it was one incident and it's blown out of proportion by the mainstream media or the liberal media. No, this is affecting real people. This is wide scale kidnappings and violations of the Fourth Amendment. I mean, what you described in Pasadena, which is kind of like a quiet, nice part of town for, unmarked vehicles to pull up with masked men and just grab people that are at the bus stop, that are not doing anything, that they're trying to go to work or go about their day. In other times, that would be just called an act of terrorism or kidnapping, at least.
I have a friend. She's a U.S. citizen. Her son, U.S. citizen, Latino. He's a driver for UPS. He's afraid to go to work.
Yeah.
He's afraid to go to work because he's afraid that on his route, he's going to be stopped.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we have allowed to be created and what obviously has to be stopped and what this opinion from the court stopped. So let's just give the procedural history quickly. First, lawsuit was filed a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
This was a temporary restraining order. So the progression of things is first, there's a temporary restraining order. That means you can't do something till there's a more formal hearing on the merits, which could lead to a preliminary injunction. The preliminary injunction is in place for the life of the case until the case is ultimately decided. All of these require that the judge find that there be a substantial likelihood of success on the merits. In other words, that you're going to win. What astounds me about this case, Shant, is the lame defense that the U.S. government put up, that the U.S. attorneys put up in response to this. I mean, they don't really even deny what they're doing. And so the court, if I could just go through this quickly, the court boiled it down to four prohibited factors that are being relied on for stopping people on the street. So first of all, what's the general rule? I'm not going to take up all the time on this.
You need reasonable suspicion. I mean, that's at the heart of this decision, right? You need reasonable suspicion. We've said that from day one when these raids started, before this lawsuit was even filed.
Right. Not probable cause, reasonable suspicion, but it has to be reasonable and it has to be suspicion. So the court said that reasonable suspicion is not apparent race or ethnicity.
Yeah.
Number two, speaking Spanish or speaking English with an accent, which I can assure you, as having been a lifelong resident of Los Angeles, many people don't speak English with ease. It's a second language for them. Presence at a particular location, being someplace like a car wash, is not allowable as a reasonable suspicion. And finally, the type of work people do. My God. These
four factors, race or ethnicity, speaking Spanish or English with an accent, being at a particular location, and the type of work someone does, those four factors are what the government was relying on to establish reasonable suspicion. And that doesn't cut it. Reasonable suspicion is, in the context of a traffic stop, it's someone is speeding, someone's taillight is out, someone has expired plates or something. Or in public, if someone appears to be hurting someone, you have reasonable suspicion to stop them. Reasonable suspicion.
Or Sean, if I can expand on that, it would be a call goes out to the radio, and on the radio that a 5'8" white guy with great hair who looks like he's in his 60s just robbed a liquor store, and I'm a block away from the liquor store. That might be reasonable suspicion
to stop you. Yeah,
right. Even if it's not me, it's just the stopping. That might be reasonable suspicion.
But these things, I mean, these four factors, I was thinking about it as I read it. I was like, oh my, this could apply to like half the people I know, just someone being non-white and speaking with an accent or speaking Spanish.
46% of the population of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Working in a restaurant, working in a gardening shop. And it's ridiculous. I mean, look, law, I thought
what that's called, by the way, be doing all of those things fitting into these factors?
Yeah.
Being an American, working, having a job, contributing to society. That's what it is. And they're
but you know what it's also called, Shant? When the government does this, is called racial profiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was going to say that this is like decades ago when a black man would be stopped if he was in a middle-class neighborhood simply because of the color of his skin. And I thought we were long past this. Well, apparently the Trump administration doesn't think it's enough. They think we should go back to this. So like I said, they put up very little, real defense. They tried to say that it was because the police and the investigators have information, but they don't share what that information is. It's because it's well known that day laborers work at car washes. It's well known.
But I don't know why you're so surprised as to them not putting up a fight. What are they going to say? Short of saying the quiet part out loud, which is they're brown and this administration wants to get rid of immigrants and they don't like brown people because they're effectively, white supremacists. They're not going to say that. I don't know what else they're going to say. I don't think there is a good faith argument. And I think it's probably an uncomfortable position to be the government's lawyers on this issue, right? I don't have any sympathy for them, but imagine that. Imagine doing this. You went to law school, you took an oath to defend the Constitution, to be ethical. And these are the arguments that they make.
I quit. Quit my government job at this point. I'd be disgusted, and many have. So let's pivot the conversation for a minute here to talk about the federal building located at 300 North Los Angeles Street in downtown Los Angeles, and specifically room B18. Can you share with us what you know about room B18?
Right. This is supposed to be a temporary holding facility for other immigration processes, someone that's going through the immigration and maybe even the deportation system or cycle. But it's supposed to be a temporary facility. They were just using this as basically a jail. They were putting people
basement.
Yeah, it's a basement. This is somewhere you hold someone for a couple hours while they're getting transferred from one real facility to another. No, they're just using this as holding cells in a basement, windowless basement, no access to lawyers. They were giving them the typical bullshit, cop runaround of I think there was even specifics that they wanted. They wanted the lawyers to show their bar card.
Yeah, let's go through some of those specifics. First of all, a handwritten note on the window that says, "No visitors, no lawyers today, no explanation."
Yeah.
There's a lack of food, water. There's a lack of sanitary needs. One of these people apparently was fighting cancer and was going to miss a chemo appointment and was denied the right to have the chemo appointment.
It's shameful. This is un-American stuff. This is third world authoritarian regime bullshit. We should be embarrassed by this. The government should be embarrassed by this, right?
It's one lawyer showing up to meet with her client and being told that she didn't have a bar card. I can attest to the fact that the State Bar of California hasn't voluntarily issued bar cards in years.
Yeah, you have to ask for it. I don't have a bar card. I have to if I want a physical copy, I have to request one. So lawyers don't have.
But Shant, it takes 90 seconds to look up on a computer if someone's admitted to be a lawyer in California. 90 seconds. That's all it takes. Being told that they won't have the ability to telephone their lawyers, won't have access to a lawyer. These are the things that the restraining order is now prohibiting. They have to give access to lawyers. They have to give people telephones so that they could call lawyers. It's not just the telephones, it's also privacy so they can talk to their lawyers without these Gestapo people watching them every single minute.
Yeah. The order also requires a reporting, right? The order requires a reporting of who they're arresting, how many people they're arresting for what, or how many people they're detaining.
And the reports are thin. They don't give any details or information as to what the probable cause or the justifiable reliance was to arrest the people in the first place. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all that they're doing this. I guess the question is there's so much here to talk about, and we can do more on this in the future, and we will certainly, because I kind of feel like we're the flashpoint in Los Angeles. It's our responsibility to report on this and to let people know exactly what's going on. But the restraining order at this point is pretty tight. I think the judge drafted it to be pretty tight, right?
Yeah. I think so. It's very thorough. It's a 52-page opinion. And we've had cases in the Central District on complex legal issues. Maybe it's not something as profound, as important as this, but when you get an opinion like this from a federal district court judge on pretty quick turnaround too, this was just filed. I mean, a lot of time was put into this. This isn't some activist judge or someone just striking down a Trump, a MAGA type of strategy that they're employing. This is a thought out legal opinion, relying on case law, relying on statute, and most importantly, properly interpreting the Constitution. So I think it's pretty strong. They're going to have a tough time on appeal. Obviously, they're probably going to appeal this and try to challenge it.
Sure.
I don't know on what
I think she drafted this very tightly because she specifically says that the immigration authorities can continue to work and continue to do their work as they're allowed to by the Constitution, but they cannot use any or all of these factors to form reasonable suspicion for a detentive stop. I'm reading from here, and it's the factors we talk about: the race or ethnicity, their ability to speak or read English with ease, presence at a particular location, such as a bus stop, car wash, tow yard, day labor pickup site, agricultural site, etc., or generally the type of work somebody does. So those are no longer allowable factors. So it's been drafted, and I guess these are my final thoughts on this because there's a lot to say here. This has been drafted to be upheld on appeal. This is very close to practically there have been injunction saying you have to follow the law, but it's giving them instructions on how they have to follow the law. They have to clean up this basement location in the government building where they're keeping people. They have to give people the right to access to lawyer. I mean, all of the things that are basic human rights. It's ironic. We live in a country where we are, supposedly champions of human rights, yet here at home, we can't even do the most fundamental basic job of providing dignity and human rights to our own people.
Yeah.
Simply because this clown was elected on the basis that he was going to stop the immigration flow. And he's been successful at the border, and lots of people support that. That's perfectly fine. But now going through the streets in vans, turning Los Angeles and metropolitan areas into major militarized zones is something that people cannot and will not stand for. And I realize that if you're in a corner of the United States where you don't see this and it doesn't affect your neighbors and your friends, you might think this is good business. But these people, many of these people, maybe they're undocumented, but they've been in this country for 25, 30 years. Some of them have been here as long as the Reagan administration back in the 80s, where government after government has turned a blind eye to these workers, these people who are our neighbors and our friends. And it is an outrage. And if you're not outraged now, I don't know what would outrage you.
Yeah. I think
the final word as usual, Shant.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Brian. I think this ruling really matters. I think it sends multiple messages. It sends messages to those vulnerable people that are being targeted unconstitutionally. It sends them the message that, we see you. America sees you. There's still hope in this country, and the Constitution sees you, and the courts are here to protect you. The courts are the last line of defense against nonsense like this that's being rolled out by Trump and his cronies. And I think it tells the rest of us, it tells the whole country, including, whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, that this is, the Constitution means something, and there are consequences to breaking the law. You can't get away with this. You can't be a dictator in America. Democracy does not allow for that, and the Constitution does not allow for that. And we're learning how to beat the MAGA-verse and Trump and his, gang of thugs in court, the legal way, the proper way. And I think this is very welcomed, and it really does give me hope. This is the playbook for beating him. This is justice prevailing. This is the Constitution prevailing, and gives me hope for democracy in this country. I'm Shant Karnikian. That's Brian Kabateck. This is Civil Action. This is a developing issue, and we'll keep covering it. Love to hear your feedback. Love seeing your comments. Like and subscribe so you can see more of this. And thanks for tuning in to Legal AF.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.